there are many of our people who are thinking more deeply and more broadly, looking at it as it actually is, and are beginning to see it more in the international context and the relation that it has with the African struggle, a human rights struggle, or the struggle for human rights. And as such, we can then take it into the United Nations.
And bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
Peace, everyone. This is We Charge Colonialism. If you're wondering what WCC is, we're an organization that is Pan-Africanist and pushing for the decolonization of African people all around the world, with particular emphasis on Africans in the United States, understanding that internal colonialism is a part of the global colonial struggle. What we're going to talk about today is what happened as far as an Army sergeant who got a reminder that he essentially still is part of this global African struggle, regardless of his status in the United States Imperial Army. But before I do want to say, if you want to become a member, or if you're just interested in getting information on WCC, or just maintaining contact and getting updates from WCC, you can go to our website and hit the join button, and from there you will be taken to our application. Fill out our application and someone will get back to you right away.
What are you, a specialist, Corporal? What are you?
I'm a lieutenant.
Lieutenant, get out of the car. Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. You made this way more difficult than it had to be if you just complied. Get out of the car.
I'm reaching for my seatbelt.
Fine. Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. Straight onto the ground. Straight onto the ground.
Ma'am. Is your commanding officer available?
Down. Let's go.
Is your commanding
Let's
officer
go.
available?
Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Please talk to
Get
me
on the
about
ground
what's
now.
going on.
Get on the ground or you're getting sprayed again. Get on the ground.
Can you please talk to me about what's
Get on
going
the ground.
on?
Get on the ground now.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Can you please talk to me about what's going on?
You're not.
Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Why am I being treated like this? Why?
Because you're not cooperating. Get on the ground.
Why am I being treated like this? It's really messed up. This is really messed up.
Sir, well, just
This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up.
All right, so let's go through an article that was written from our brother Ikemba, and he says that in January of 2020, Army Lieutenant Karen Nazario, nephew of the late Eric Garner, was driving his SUV when he was accosted by two Windsor, Virginia police officers. The two officers, Joe Gutierrez and Daniel Crocker, became overly aggressive, threatening without cause, and at one point were clearly antagonistic. Knowing the history of police relations with the Black community, it was not surprising that the officers were looking to escalate the situation in order to bring Lieutenant Nazario harm. Despite being screamed at and having a gun drawn on him during a simple traffic stop, Lieutenant Nazario remained calm throughout the whole encounter. He only wanted to know why he was being stopped and why he was being treated in such a fashion. He was pepper sprayed, as I'm sure many of you have seen, and he was forced to lie on the ground while being handcuffed. Now, this is where, read the whole article, please. I'm going through certain excerpts, but this is where I really want you to understand why it is that we should not get confused about our status as African people in this nation. It says, in America, your racial status supersedes everything. Whether a doctor, lawyer, entertainer, or serving in the military, if you are Black, be prepared to be treated accordingly. That needs to be emphasized again. It doesn't matter if you are a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're an entertainer. We're told in our minds that all you have to do is be excellent at something, show Black excellence, and that will be enough to exempt you from the ramifications of white supremacy. By now, I hope you are intelligent enough to know that that is a lie. That is a lie put forth by the white supremacists to make you think that you have a stake in the system, to make you think that you can evade what this system has done to your people, but you really can't evade it. It's going to manifest inside of your life in one way or the other. The question is, will you be ready? Will you be prepared? In the case of Lieutenant Nazario, he could have absolutely lost his life. And it seemed like that was where the officers were ready to take it. That's where they were ready to go. So that's why we have to not get confused and think that there is an exemption from this thing. This thing is global. This thing is domestic. This thing is in your backyard. Do never think that you are exempt from this struggle. Let's go on. Ikemba wrote that this was confirmed and right in the written opinion of the landmark Dred Scott decision. It was held that the U.S. Constitution was not meant to include American citizenship for Black people, whether they were enslaved or free. It became precedent that no African in America had a right that white people were bound to respect. Let's emphasize that again. Under Dred Scott, the same decision, it said that that you are not someone who has to be respected, that you are completely exempt as far as being recognized by this Constitution. They said that there was no right that a white person was bound to respect of yours. It goes further to say that if that wasn't clear during the 200 years prior to the decision, it was made clear at the end of this particular trial. Now, I'm going to again say, please read the entire article and hear from Brother Ikemba as far as what his take is on this situation. But what I want us to understand is that we can never think that there's a way to qualify yourself out of white supremacy. That is a deception. That's something that the white supremacist structure has taught us. Otherwise, if we understood what is going on, if we understood that there's no way to get out of this fight, if we understood that this fight implicates every single one of us, then we'd be forced to look at this thing differently. We'd be forced to not be distracted. We'd be forced to not be confused. Unfortunately, after some of the people who got concessions from the Black liberation struggle basically laid down their arms and kind of joined the dominant society, all of us were taught and told that there were ways for us to join the society and that we were no longer in a fight for our lives. But please let Lieutenant Lazario want through. Be a reminder to you that you are in a fight for your life. You heard this was the nephew of Eric Garner. I'm sure, positive, that he would have never thought that he came this close to being a victim just like his uncle. I'm very sure that he thought that enrolling inside of the Army was going to take him out of being vulnerable to something like police violence. I'm sure he thought that the police would have respected him in uniform and on active duty. But you have to understand, whenever you have these type of qualifications, there's a long history of the structure responding by penalizing you because they never want you to be uppity. If you ever look at what happened after World War II, when Africans were returning from fighting for the United States Army, there were mass lynchings. Why of any time was it that there were mass lynchings after Africans had enrolled inside of the Army, had enrolled inside of the military, and came back thinking that, hey, we're going to get some type of good treatment? The reason why is because to the racist segregationists, they never wanted there to be any confusion of the fact that you cannot qualify yourself out of being a nigger. You just cannot. And anytime that we thought that we were qualifying ourselves out of this, they were very sure that they were going to do something to remind us that this country will not recognize our rights. This country will not respect us as people. So don't get confused. Don't be appalled. Be appalled at the people who are appalled at this point. I'm kind of getting appalled at all the people who act surprised, to be honest with you. And understand that this not only reminisces what's going on as far as our people here in the United States, this automatically, obviously, brings in the international situation. If we understand that these same armies are all over the third world countries. They're not inside of the European countries. They're not inside of the imperialist countries. They're inside of the countries that of people who are colonized just like me and you. They're not going over to fly drones inside of the UK. They're not going to fly drones inside of Germany. They're going to do those things inside of Africa, in Latin America, certain parts of Asia. They're doing these things inside of places where the people are colonized, the people are oppressed by the system. So if you enroll in this system, you have to come to grips with the fact that you are not going to be policing people who are white. You're not going to be policing people who are of the white infrastructure. You're going to be policing people who are the same situation as you are. You're going to be a tool of white supremacy. If you're comfortable with that, be comfortable with that. But understand, like I said again, you do not exempt yourself from this. And whenever you come home and you deal with racism, understand that you never exempted yourself from the ramifications of being colonized. So I hope that we start understanding this. I hope that a lot of us also start questioning what is it that we're doing overseas that makes us think that this stuff does not follow us, that the system does not follow us, that the system is not global? How do we betray our liberation? How many of us have betrayed our liberation? How many Africans are over in Africa and fighting for AFRICOM? How many have done things that go completely contrary to your freedom and your liberation? How many? These are the questions that we should ask. These are the things that we should never be confused about. We have a long history in the fight in the freedom struggle of people who already answered those questions for us. Look at what happened with Vietnam. They already set the precedent for you. So go back and research, go back and learn before you ever sign your name on that dotted line that basically puts you down to be a part of a war machine that can take your life and has taken many lives before those people who you will be positioned to also take. So I hope that this shines light on the situation. Again, please do read Ikemba's article, and also please, if you're interested in WCC, please do follow us on social media, and also feel free to send us an application if you want to join forces. That's all I have. I will see you all in the next video.